We've got several new updates directly from a number of Tesla executives to share with you today. First, lots of news coming from Grace Tao, Vice President in China. Grace talked about robotics, energy, and more. Second, breaking news this morning about their new standardization of automotive electronic connectivity is another breakthrough to massively reduce cost of goods. Third, we also have updates from Dan Priestley, Vice President of Tesla Semi, Lars Moravy, Vice President of Vehicle Engineering, and fourth, Ashok Elluswamy, Director of Autopilot, has announced a new version of full self-driving that will fix the issue of rain not allowing full use of FSD. This comes after a user reported FSD can now see emergency vehicles approaching and pulling over appropriately. Also, a Tesla patent was released showing that CyberCab will likely use in-mold plastic injections with attached aluminum sheets. Finally, Tesla announced that the 1 millionth Model Y was built in all of places, the 10th in Fremont. This shows what Tesla is capable of. So we've got Jeff Lutz joining us. He's like the absolutely perfect person. We're talking about Fremont and batteries and energy and specifically the cost of goods. Jeff is the ex-CVP of Supply Chain and Chief Quality Officer and now CEO of his own supply chain consulting firm. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Yeah, Herbert, there's just a lot of news that came out recently, so it'd be great to chop this up, go through it.
Yeah, we love it whenever there's coming directly from Tesla executives and directly from Tesla, and every one of these things just came out in the last day or 2 days. So let's start with that. You've got Grace Tao here, the Vice President in China. She came out and started just talking a few notes about human or robots, energy, and then an update on the Megapack factory. So first she said, applying the knowledge and creative achievements gained while developing self-driving car technology to human or robots will promote the development of intelligent robots. In the future, human or robots can become teachers, take care of children, go shopping, and help people pour drinks. I think this is interesting because this is Grace Tao talking about robots in China, which we haven't had them talk about it so much. They need to start pushing that. And then she also added that the energy storage business is positioned as Tesla's new growth axis. In terms of the energy storage business, we're willing to join forces with this organization called Hebei to find more opportunities. They've also gave an update that the Tesla Megapack factory in Shanghai is on track to start shipments. Used to say just production of Megapacks. Now they're shipping in the first quarter of 2025. And then the local media reported that this was last month. They're already 60% complete, but that was last month. So they're really quite ahead. By now, they're even closer to start production. Will be completed less than a year after start of production. What's your thinking about everything she said there, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, China's speed is a real thing. You know about in the industry, if you've built factories or set up distribution in multiple countries, there is a thing called China speed. They've got access to both the raw materials, the refined materials, the construction machines, labor, tooling. They have access to these things just much. So besides actually constructing the factory, they're actually being able to get the CapEx in and get that timed and installed, much more quickly than, that happens in other countries. And this is something that can be, improved in other countries. This isn't something that's, that's so captive that it can't be exported. It absolutely can. And there is a thing called China speed. And that call out for Megapack, I think, is really important. I called that out actually a couple of days ago as well. That was actual language changed in the earnings deck from this quarter reported earnings last week. They said Megapacks would be shipping in the quarter of Q1. The prior earnings release 90 days earlier, called it the start of production. So between the start of production and then being approved to ship, there's several milestones that happen in the factory to both internally approve yourself as well as qualify your supply base. And then there's also approvals needed both from a regulatory and government perspective, as well as, potential customers, right? If you're going to be shipping, you're going to ship to somebody. So Tesla's been able to tie all those ends and bring those in and accelerate to go from shipping in the quarter to production in the quarter. And that's actually a several week improvement quarter to, in the last 90 days between the two earnings reports. And finally, the comments on the robots, I think they're really, the We Robot event was just done a couple of weeks ago. And I think, China is going to be, bringing in that language, bringing in the output of that, which was what Grace went through. And, it's going to happen. It's going to happen in multiple countries both from a distribution perspective and a production perspective. And in fact, I wouldn't even be surprised if Tesla even had an event at some point in the future, outside of the U.S. to promote, these activities. So anyway, I can see this all coming together, and those are great updates from the China team.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Well, yeah, I can't wait to see robots in China's factory. They're already the most efficient factory in the world. Then you're going to start seeing this coming soon. This next story is a breaking news this morning that Tesla announced this. You can explain this to me because I think it's very complicated, but it sure sounds like it's very, very important. You posted this out. It says there's a new connector standardization that they've just announced. The $1.2 billion unit per year smartphone industry, which is what you were in charge of, never went this far in terms of standardizing internal connection schemes, lower cost, better reliability, and faster development times, less custom connecting tours, which is expensive. So what they announced this morning was standardization of automotive connectivity. So typically a single vehicle requires 200 connectors. And then so what they did was they brought it down to just 6 types of connectors. So this is like all the wires and cables going inside a car, an automotive, right? This is what's happening.
Yeah. So what the way to think of this is there's many connectors inside of, in the construction of a vehicle, manufacturing a vehicle, to connect all of these different systems together inside of the vehicle. There's wiring, there's cabling through that. And at the end of that wiring and cabling are connectors. And these connectors are, quite frankly, in traditional terms, they're many times, and most times, they're unique to the OEM that's developing the product, in this case, developing an automobile. And what they do is they design their own connector system. They'll work with partners in the industry. TE Connectivity is a big supplier. Molex is a big supplier. Amphenol is a big supplier. There's several big suppliers in the industry. They've got connector technology. The OEMs have to find something that works in their application as well as their form factor. So they work together and they design connectors. And then there's something called tooling released to actually fabricate those connectors. These connectors have, they've got plated contacts inside of them for wear and for conductive performance. They've got composite overmolds of various different types of resins and plastic types that are used. And they're all different. That's the point of this. So what Tesla was saying, there's about 200 different spots or slots inside of a vehicle. And what they've done is they think that, and this is also going to help promote the 48 volt architecture system as well, is all right, instead of having everybody do their own connectors for these 200 different slots in the vehicle, and again, there could be, used, the one connector could be used many different times. It's not 200 different types, it's 200 different slots in the vehicle. Instead of every company developing their own, we're Tesla, we develop these, we understand automotive reliability standards, we've passed, these set of requirements. If you'd consider using these, then, you can have them. Here are the designs, here are the suppliers we're working with. And instead of you having to develop your own connectors, what they're trying to do is, I believe, they're trying to get other players onto 48 volt faster. And quite frankly, this would be another notch to get EVs to be cheaper than ICE if you can standardize something like a connector system, which are traditionally custom. And when they're custom, that means you as the OEM are writing a check to suppliers for custom tooling. The suppliers will gladly produce that custom tooling for you at a margin. They will gladly produce those parts at a lower volume, because if you were part of a broader standardized set, they could, their cost structure will come down, and their price that they charge per connector will actually come down. So this is what's happening. Tesla's trying to break that norm and say, look, there's basically 6 types of connectors. Here are the designs. You can have them. And guess what? They're already tested. They're already qualified. Here are the suppliers we use. If you pick them up, you'll get the market faster. You'll have less reliability issues. And then if the more of us that pick this up, the lower the cost come, because not everybody has to do their own custom CapEx or tooling. And then there's a much higher volume per part number if more OEMs get on and start using these. So Tesla did 2 things. They trimmed down the connector types that are needed, and then now they're releasing it to for everybody else to use. And by doing those two things, it's called creating platforms, driving reuse. You take the cost structure down, and you take it down on multiple lines. So in unit economics, there's multiple lines of cost. This is a full stack of cost to build any device. So in this case, you'll be able to take the bill of material cost down, the price you pay to a supplier to produce that one part. You will take the warranty cost down of your vehicle. If you have standard connector types, tried, true, and tested, you're not developing them different for every vehicle you're doing, and there'll be better data on them as well. So the warranty will come down. CapEx or tooling costs will come down as well, because you're not releasing new tooling for every vehicle that you do for these connectors. You pick up the tooling that's already there, and these tools have shot lives that are much longer typically than the standard volumes on a vehicle. So more vehicle types get onto it, the tooling costs come down. So it really spans across multiple lines: service, warranty, bill of material, CapEx, and of course engineering OpEx. And this is the cost to develop a connector inside of an automotive company. How much does that cost? And then finally, any supplier industrialization or realization costs that, like the Tesla supply chain would need to have done to handhold a new connector and get it into production. All that work will be done and picked up. So this is actually a big deal. And I brought it to the smartphone industry builds 1.2 billion smartphones a year. And the only connector that there's some standardization on is the USB-C connector. And even those, there's many, many, many different types of those. But inside of the phone, there's several connector types, and those are not standardized. Each company's doing their own, and it's more of a kind of to fit the certain form factor of the device. So this can tip the scale from from ICE to EV in terms of cost structure. It's going to be another thing that tips it over to EV.
Gotcha. Thank you for explaining all that. There's quite a number of areas where we could reduce costs. Jeff, would you hazard a guess on how much cost could be reduced? Like $2,000, something like that per car?
It's several. I mean, these connectors are expensive each.
Yeah.
It depends on how many are used. So if I'm Tesla, I want to actually reduce the number of connectors I'm doing as well. But it's several dollars. Yeah. 200 to
6, and then you're talking about millions and millions of cars. So
yeah, that's connector type. So the 200 is how many spots are used. The 6 are the types of connectors.
Yeah.
And typically that could have been double, triple, or more in terms of types of connectors. So they've trimmed that down. So yeah, this is going to be many, many, many dollars per vehicle. And it's going to also help companies get the market faster. So it actually cuts across many different things. I mean, I would venture to guess it could be, with the tooling cost, depending on the volume of your vehicle, it could be hundreds of dollars. Sure.
Okay. Updates from Dan Priestley, Tesla Semi, and Lars Moravy. Let's get to that now. You've got, this is, James Catt was saying this, and then Dan Priestley replied to him, says, I can envision Tesla Trucking, the Tesla Trucking division, having a service arm that offers a turnkey consultative and installation service for semi-charging, which will be absolutely critical for mass adoption of Tesla Semi in a business-to-business model, kind of like what Tesla Energy has for Megapack. This will drive additional competitive advantage for Tesla because other BEV truck manufacturers can't match Tesla's charging infrastructure and installation costs. Lower cost plus better service equals faster adoption, quicker path to profits. So yeah, the combination of that. We always knew that Tesla Semi wasn't just a vehicle sale, it's a whole system. Dan Priestley, who's in charge of the Tesla Semi division in Tesla, said this: we work closely with our customers to ensure that they have the appropriate charging solution for their operations by leveraging the in-house built hardware common with Tesla charging and experience from deploying more than 60,000 DC posts. We can often deploy fast charging for Semi at about $500 per kilowatt. That's fully landed cost. It's not uncommon for competing installation to be twice that. Tesla's vertical integration, economies of scales, and developed construction techniques enable this savings, help make Semi even more compelling. Yeah.
Tesla can sell, like they've partnered, and like others have partnered with them on the EV, traditional vehicle side. Truck manufacturers are going to want to partner and be on the Tesla charging network as well, because that same network is going to be built on the same foundations from a cost structure perspective that Dan outlined. It's not only the cost structure too. Tesla's known for their uptime. And if you're in the, the trucking business, you have to be able to go to a charging post and know that the connector is up and reliable. So both of those things come together. Tesla has that reputation for both the cost side and the quality side. So that's a big thing.
And at the earnings call, you can almost hear the glee that this Tesla Semi was a huge success based on the customer feedback and, more importantly, the driver feedback. And Elon was saying that Tesla Semi is unlimited demand at this point. Every Semi they build will be sold, and every company will have to buy one of these at this point. That's what they know now. Tesla's announced this as well. More EVs on the road means quieter cities and highways, also less polluted air that you and our kids breathe in. Of course, they're saying that, but Lars, this is what he said. These plots, these pictures from the lockdowns during the COVID lockdowns, they foretold the future that we'll bring. You don't have to imagine if there are only zero emissions with every vehicle on the road, what will happen to our cities? We saw what happened on those few days. It was real. Help us make it real every day. So he shared these photos where during the lockdown or before the lockdown, this is the pollution, the concentration of, nitrogen oxide. And then look what happens when it's like there's a lockdown, no cars driving for a couple of days there, a few days, and it's just all gone. Here's one example of smog in the city and what happens when there's no smog in the same city. So just nice to see Lars talk about that. He also weighed in on the Semi and how the road trucks are the biggest contributors to noise and pollution. Lars said, absolutely, Tesla Semi is coming in mass shortly. So volume scale. And we made it so compelling. Anyone who does not use it will be left behind. Tesla's goal make products people love, or in this case, heavy goods transportation companies.
Yeah. I mean, they've been refining this offering for the last couple of years. We had the launch event. It's almost 2 years ago on December 1st, I believe, 2022. I was at the event. And and they've been refining the background. So they got to get this factory stood up. They have to get the charging net. They have to get some corridor of a charging network stood up. And I think once you have those two things, you've already have the short run data sets that they have from Pepsi and DHL and all these others, and the customer feedback is very positive. So this is another business unit that almost Tesla's going to be able to stand up, which is, if you look at the higher order bit here, if they get the cost per mile down to certain thresholds, they're going to be able to start pulling freight from rail over to trucking, and so it's even a little bit hard to actually put like what's the TAM size of it. It's enormous. And then if these trucks are autonomous, now you can actually extend the work that these drivers do. If there's some sort of driver assist involved, they can actually work longer. They can actually hopefully make more money. So the transition, I think, will take a period of time. But I think the higher order bit that Tesla is going for here is the cost per mile and pulling freight over from rail and other means over to electric trucking.
Yeah, it's great to hear from the Tesla executives themselves, Lars and Dan Priestley. Again, they're just weighing in, telling you what they're seeing out there. So now we've got Ashok Elluswamy coming in talking about the new version of FSD that's going to fix a problem with rain. But before that, one of the users here discovered that FSD, apparently, we don't know, it's just a one-time user, but Pete Balls to the Walls FSD was testing this out, and he noticed that for the first time, he thinks that FSD saw an emergency vehicle approaching and pulled over to the side of the road. Then it resumes after it's cleared. This was one of the things that people said, it's impossible. Tesla can never, the car can never recognize emergency vehicles. Why is it not happening? Well, apparently it seems to be happening.
Any idea?
No.
No way.
That's the side of the road. That is
What are you going to do
Oh
today?
my gosh. That was the coolest thing I've ever seen.
That was the shoulder. It literally went to the shoulder just like you normally would.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to continue adding this capability as part of getting the feature complete and they need to do that. I mean, this is a necessary thing. School buses are a necessary thing. All these things have to be solved for to get the feature complete, and that's one of my favorite handle names, by the way, on X, the Pete's handle name. So thanks for posting that, Pete. Thanks.
You just said it like as a dude.
Yeah.
But neural networks is showing you that it can learn a lot of things that you don't think it can learn. It can recognize, oncoming emergency vehicles, and it looks like it did it well. I mean, yes, it was just a one-time, one user, but come on. Look what it did, right? That sounds pretty good. So it has little problems. And here's another little problem was that sometimes the car, there's this issue, like when it rains, this guy's saying in Oregon, it rains 8 months of the year, slight drizzle this morning, and FSD degraded. It would ding, the chime would ding almost every minute. I stopped using FSD on a Cybertruck this morning because the chime was so frequent and annoying. Is this going to be fixed? If not, there is no way I'm going to be able to use FSD through an Oregon fall, winter, or spring. Ashok said it will be fixed in the upcoming release. It's already here. This is the new solution. So they're not only advancing, but they're seems to be solving these issues about what happens when it's raining, what happens if there's fog, what happens. Like that's one of the things that NHTSA pointed out, right? Does the car know what to do when there's degraded vision?
Yeah, all these things have an order of operation that they've got to solve for these things. But there's priorities first to like get the car driving in nominal weather conditions perfectly, and that's what they've been focused on. And then approach some of these edge cases either through the training, or if there's any kind of logic that they have to put in terms of bug fixes to resolve it. And you can see it. The pace is picking up. The releases are coming out faster. They're getting out to the fleet faster. This operation, we're seeing more and more revenue recognition. We'll talk maybe later about this of Tesla's deferred revenue coming in, and you actually see not only are more features coming in, but the actual pace, and you can see like it's operating like a machine. It's not this, we're not waiting weeks and months now for releases. They're really coming out quickly, and to me, this kind of really predicts where Tesla's going. It's kind of foretells like where things are going, and it's really exciting because they're going to get more and more of their revenue through software, through all this work they've done in the background, and it's really, I think, going to start paying off. So I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, here's the Cybertruck. It was being shown off at Giga, Texas. CyberCab, thank you. CyberCab. And everybody was debating what is going to be the outside material that's used. Is it steel? Is it aluminum? Is it plastic? Is it some sort of composite? And we know that they're optimizing for cost reduction, and that's why it's so critical. Well, there's a patent that came out. So first of all, the CyberCab was seen here. They called it the Alpha Build. Maybe you can explain what that means.
Yeah, this may be an alpha. I mean, it's one of the stages. Development engineering occurs in time phased stages, and their process phase stages. And this is an alpha build. It's before you'd get into any kind of, production R releases. And so this is basically, we're in the prototyping loop where they're doing a batch build. They're doing all their extended reliability testing. They're doing all their bench level testing and drive testing, and then they're iterating, releasing new tooling out, releasing new designs out. So they're in a loop right now. They're in a design loop, and this is just one of the earlier builds of the car. Let's look at the patent. I mean, until we hear it from Tesla, anyway, I'm going to be a little bit suspicious. Sure. But you're right that they're going to be optimizing the chassis actually for mass, and which will then drive the cost structure lower. And of course, they're optimizing for safety too. So you have this thing of mass, safety, and then they're also trying to reduce the number of operations in the factory. And those three things together will get you the lowest cost structure.
Yeah, it says number 16. So yeah, small batches, and deleting the rear window also helps you from a cost structure perspective as well. 16 CyberCabs doesn't sound like small batches to me, because those are massive vehicles. This isn't, but yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So here's what the patents were. So this is Seti Park, and they do a fantastic job posting all the patents from Tesla. Based on Tesla's patents, it appears that the CyberCab will likely use in-mold plastic injections with attached anodized aluminum sheets. Recent patent primarily describes a manufacturing process for vehicle door sills. Its material technology suggests broader applications. The patent details a technique that combines thin aluminum sheets, 0.2 to 1 millimeter, particularly 5000 series, with back-injected engineering plastics under high pressure, 10,000 to 20,000 psi. Structural integrity through the use of glass fiber and reinforced PC ABS composites. Creates a robust composite structure, making it suitable for doors and exterior panels in vehicles like the CyberCab, which features an unpainted aluminum exterior. This manufacturing approach offers significant advantages for mass production with simplified post-processing requirements. What do you think, Jeff?
The use of well, it said PC ABS glass-filled material. There's pros and cons to this. This could be an hour-long episode. There's cons in terms of tool life. Those wear on tools a lot faster, but in terms of the structural integrity, I agree. And you're doing these larger pieces of material. So any type of insert molding, any type of these combination of these two parts, there's going to be, I would say there's actually some cost risk to this in the early part of it. But what they're trying to do at the system level is they're trying to reduce the amount of fasteners that are used, the amount of adhesives that are used, and so forth. So if they can accomplish that and even go to this little bit more complex insert molding scheme, then the total cost structure when they get this thing to rated velocity and at rated yield may be lower, as you can delete these. They're called consumables. Any types of glues, fasteners, welding in the factory, and all those things also add mass as well. So it looks like Tesla's really going for a first principles approach here to eliminate those pieces, eliminate those operations in the factory. It's also going to help with liquid ingress. There's a number of different areas I think this could help with. So we should follow this, as it goes along. But Tesla, I would say, to build this CyberCab, they're going to have to come up with a number of different things from an innovation perspective to get the cost structure where they want it. And it won't be there from day one, because the number of new things that they're doing, it's going to take them time to work through it. And by the way, I think that's one of the things that, some people feel that the production schedule is extended, 2026 getting the volume, even though Tesla said they originally said they wouldn't just get started until the end of 25. That whole piece of being able to get to production volume at that scale, that weekly or monthly scale, is really important from a cost structure perspective. And the more runtime they can have on these new approaches from a design perspective, it's important. These parts are different than the modules which have been pulled forward and will be in these new vehicles in the first half of 25. These parts are more for the actual the structural cavity, the actual body engineering of the vehicle. Those are unique to the CyberCab. The other modules that have been pulled forward, I think that's going to help the cost structure of the CyberCab in the future by ramping these things earlier and getting the problems worked out in the earlier vehicles. So it's pretty exciting. I'm glad they're showing the vehicle off at Texas and getting people the opportunity to get familiar with it. It looks stunning. I think what Tesla's trying to do here is they're trying to make it a very stunning visual offset between what you see with a conventional robotaxi on the street today and what a Tesla robotaxi will look like in the future.
Two more quick stories. I wish I had more time with you, Jeff, because you can spend so much time to teach us about this. The first one, as we know, is the service centers. Tesla spent a lot of time at the earnings call talking about how they're going to take these service centers, and they found that if you make them larger, you can have specializations just like you could in the factory. And that not only improves speed, but also cost, and everything just improved. And so now there's news that Tesla is planning to build its largest sales and delivery and service center in the world, a massive 163,000 square foot facility in New York, 500 parking spots in total in the site, including 20 electric vehicle charging spots. It's going to start in 2025. So that's the first story. And the second one, Tesla announced this. They're pretty proud of what they were able to accomplish at this tent at Fremont. So in June 2018, they started talking about needing more space at the Fremont factory. That was the only factory they had at the time. First Model 3 coming out, what they call GA4. Now they have the millionth. This is not even meant, was not even meant. This was a tent you could see here. It wasn't even meant to be a factory at all, because this Fremont factory was built by GM and Toyota, and it wasn't designed for, you know, all these automation, and they had to make do with what they had. This is the resilience of Tesla's team. 1 millionth now coming out of that. Roshan Thomas, who is, I think, obviously knows you very well. You know him. He's the supply chain executive at Tesla. Said that this tent was an unconventional solution born out of a critical moment. In just 3 weeks, the Tesla team rallied to bring this ambitious concept to life. The true intrigue lies in the intricate details of how it all came together, followed by relentless months of iteration to refine the line to improve ergonomics, rate, and quality of vehicles produced on this line. Like, even I think they were saying that it's on a the lot was slightly, they realized it was slightly tilted or sloping, and so then they used that to let the cars drift out, I guess. Tell me more about this.
It comes from having a leader with, you know, singular purpose, getting everybody aligned on the same goal, motivating the team. Obviously, there were you know, dire financial consequences if they couldn't scale up the Model 3. And when you're bound by, you know, the size of your facility and how that facility was originally designed, you know, the tent piece, it's obviously unconventional, but it can be done. And that's where I think a lot of ideas start, you know, with Tesla, which is like, you know, maybe unconventional, but can it actually be done? Like, what are the laws of physics involved here? And let's map it out and let's figure out how to work together. And that's really powerful too, because at other companies, departments are more entrenched of like, I'm the department of, you know, whatever, safety. I'm the department of, you know, of supplier realization. They're more entrenched. At Tesla, it's like, I'm the electric motor and I need to get the electric motor out the door. I needs to be running at, you know, 5,000 units per day. It needs to be at sub $1,000 cost structure. It needs to have 3 suppliers, and it needs to have a performance of X, Y, and Z. And what happens is electric motor team is formed, and it's got the supplier realization people. It's got the Gigafactory people. It's got the safety. It's got all the different people on the team, and they're sitting around the table trying to figure out how to make that motor meet all of that objective criteria versus being all off in their own disciplines. And that's one of the key fundamental things. You can't teach this. This is a difficult thing to teach because it involves restructuring, it involves leadership, and it has to come, honestly, from the top of the company. So, you know, it's great to see. It's great to see. This is a fun story to kind of relive. And finally, it's one of the Tesla interview questions, which is, give me an example of something you've done in your career that demonstrated exceptional ability on your part. Like, what did you do? And every one of these engineers and manufacturing folks and engineering folks, anybody involved with standing up a tent to make electric vehicle automobiles, will have a fun story to tell at any future, you know, interview opportunity if they've got to tell this story.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jeff. Absolutely perfect that we had you here. All the breaking news about the new connectors, just everything from the Tesla executives. Yeah. Appreciate you, Jeff. Follow Jeff on his X channel, the Jeff Lutz. Subscribe to him there as well. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.